President Cyril Ramaphosa has issued a strong warning against what he described as bullies, both at home and abroad, who he says are attempting to divide South Africans and undermine the country's constitutional democracy. The president was addressing supporters at the African National Congress's 114th anniversary celebrations held at Moruleng Stadium in the Northwest Province. Opening his address, Ramaphosa reflected on the 30th anniversary of South Africa's constitution, describing it as one of the most progressive in the world and a cornerstone of the country's democratic project. However, he cautioned that the milestone comes at a time of growing pressure on democratic values, not only in South Africa but globally. He warned of what he called increasingly strident attacks on constitutionalism, the rule of law, and the rules-based international order. According to Ramaphosa, values such as democracy, equality, inclusion, human solidarity, gender equality, and social justice are facing sustained challenges across the world. He said that while the majority of South Africans continue to embrace principles such as non-racialism, non-sexism, and equality, there is a vocal minority within the country that has aligned itself with global forces hostile to these ideals. Although the president did not name specific organizations, his remarks were widely understood as a reference to groups accused of lobbying international actors and foreign media against South Africa, including claims that the country is facing so-called white genocide. Ramaphosa described these claims as blatant falsehoods. He accused what he called anti-transformation forces of deliberately spreading misinformation to attract support from international networks with racist or exclusionary agendas. The president went further, warning that these groups are pursuing what he described as attempts at regime change. He said such efforts aim to weaken South Africa's constitutional democracy, undermine non-racialism and non-sexism, and derail the country's transformation agenda. Ramaphosa alleged that these forces use multiple tactics, including the funding of political parties intended to fragment progressive movements, the creation of parallel state structures, and the promotion of secessionist ideas. He said South Africans have historically refused to be divided and would not allow themselves to be bullied, whether by domestic actors or by international interests. "We are united in our will and our resolve," the president told supporters. At the same time, Ramaphosa used the anniversary address to acknowledge the ANC's own shortcomings. He admitted that failures in service delivery, slow economic growth, and persistently high unemployment have deeply frustrated and alienated many South Africans. The president said the ANC must confront its weaknesses honestly if it hopes to reclaim its role as a leading force in society. As part of that effort, government has identified 6 key priorities that will guide its work in the coming year. These include fixing local government and restoring the delivery of basic services, accelerating economic transformation and job creation, and intensifying the fight against crime and corruption. Gender-based violence and femicide were again identified as a national disaster, requiring urgent and sustained intervention. Other priorities include strengthening national dialogue as part of the 30th anniversary of the Constitution, making organizational renewal within the ANC visible and irreversible, and advancing South Africa's role on the African continent and in global affairs. On infrastructure, Ramaphosa announced that government plans to invest 54 billion rand over the next 3 years to repair and upgrade water and electricity systems. The funding will target major metros, including Buffalo City, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Nelson Mandela Bay. The ANC's anniversary celebrations take place at a critical moment for the party. For the first time since 1994, the ANC no longer holds a parliamentary majority following the 2024 general elections. As a result, it is now governing through coalition arrangements at both national and provincial levels. The party is also facing growing pressure from a resurgent opposition, increased civic activism, and widespread public frustration over poverty, unemployment, crime, and energy insecurity. As the ANC marks 114 years since its founding, the message from its leader is clear. The party sees itself under pressure from both external and internal forces, while acknowledging that it must deliver tangible improvements in the lives of South Africans if it is to retain public trust. Whether those commitments translate to meaningful change remains a central question for the year ahead.